Businesses tend to focus on revenue, profits, and getting loyal customers. But how about healthy workplace culture? You're listening to How I Turned the Corner, where Kendra Prospero leads eye-opening conversations that most business leaders avoid. The right way to address employee challenges. Listen to real-life stories of workplace struggles, giving you valuable advice on what must be done to make every employee truly satisfied and fulfilled in their job. This is for leaders who want to create great company cultures and for employees who want to do something to put an end to suffering at work in the most practical ways possible. Here's your host, Kendra.
All right, everyone, welcome to How I Turned the Corner. I'm Kendra Prospero. And today I want to start this off by talking about values. I find so many CEOs kind of roll their eyes when I ask, what are your values? And if I could be really honest, when I opened up my business, I kind of had that same reaction. I kind of felt like it was a little too fluffy and for what I thought needed to happen. And I didn't have time for fluff. I still don't have time for fluff. However, I kept seeing it over and over as a theme in books and in things I was reading. So I stayed and paid attention to it, figuring that I'm not the smartest person in the room. I might need to learn something new. And sure enough, over time, I realized that it is actually one of the most important things that we can do as leaders and founders. And our guest today, Mike Betzer with Hypergiant, is a seasoned entrepreneur and leader who has built his businesses around values. They are incredibly important at Hypergiant. Matter of fact, their mission is to transform the future and they will do it through the small groups of dedicated, brilliant people who are committed to solving the world's toughest and biggest problems. And they do stand behind their key values, which are to be endlessly curious, work hard and have fun, lead with solutions, lead with positivity, and inclusivity now. I love those. Well, after both of us being in business for many years, me 11 years, you, Mike, being in business for over 30 years, I think now we both can agree that when you hire, fire, manage, train, govern, promote, compensate against your values, it actually makes everything a little bit easier. It's personally been my experience. It's made running a business and the employees in my business so much easier than I expected. And so I'm thrilled to chat with you today and start with this conversation around values and how they've helped you grow and sustain your business. And so welcome, Mike Betzer, to How I Turned the Corner.
Well, thank you very much. That's very nice. And thank you for saying in a nice way that I'm a seasoned executive, which is a nice way of saying I'm old, but I appreciate it very much.
Well, you've clearly been very successful in what you've done. So I would love to kick this off, just giving everyone a little bit more context around what is it that you guys do at Hypergiant, because honestly, I could spend days talking to you about what you do there, as I'm sure you can do as well. But yeah, tell us a little bit about Hypergiant.
Well, the first thing we say, because everyone likes to say this, is we are an AI software company. And so everybody's like, ooh, that's so cool. Because I think people are putting AI on every single thing. Right. This is an AI mug. This is an AI. That's like, oh my God. So everyone is saying AI around everything, which is awesome because we are leveraging data to do things in different ways because there's so much data. So I love AI, but it's the most overhyped thing I think is being said right now. Probably more podcasts on AI than anything else in the world. So what we do is we help our customers go from data to decisions in the time span that is relevant for them. So if you're talking Air Force, it may be seconds. If you're talking something in critical infrastructure, it may be a couple minutes or a couple hours. It all depends on the situation, but there's plenty of data. You just have to get that data to the right person so they can make the right decision. So that's what we are an AI company. We help them move from data to decisions. We do that for space, defense, and critical infrastructure. So that's all that we focus on. It's just a really, really cool time to be in this space. So I may have a slight advantage with my values because it sure does help when you're doing something that's really, really cool and really important. I mean, this our little piece is helping to change the safety in the future of people and the planet, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I really love what you're doing. I actually grew up at IBM. So I was a software engineer for IBM. And we were right on the cusp of trying to figure out how to use, in those days, really one-to-one marketing data to help push our products out, honestly. So it was like the early days of analytics and of data analytics. And so I just in those days started to really appreciate what could happen when we start mapping patterns and data to decision making. So when I was reading and doing research around your company, I was just like, oh my gosh, this stuff is it's just mind blowing. It's so awesome. Yeah. I love what you're doing. And I also think that even there's a gazillion podcasts about AI right now, and there aren't that many podcasts talking about the people that are making it happen. And there's a huge team of people you have behind you that make this work happen, right? So can you just give me, because none of that data is ever accurate on the internet. Like, tell me about your company. Tell me about how many people you have and what types of people.
Yeah, so we're a small company. 200 people in the company, mostly software engineers, data scientists, project managers, implementation specialists, designers. So what we do is we will go and sit down with the Army, a group of people in the Army that are thinking about something new. And so we'll go and spend a week with them, and then we will go away and design what we think is the right solution. So we have a bunch of just crazy, cool, wicked designers who can say, wait, what you're doing today, what you said you want to do, or what you're thinking about doing, sometimes they don't even know what they want to do. And we just look at all the stuff they're doing today, and it's so hard. And we're like, wait a minute, if we could take data from here, 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 and here, put that together in a beautiful new interface, half of this data goes away because there's noise. The 20% that matters is now going to be on a screen that is beautifully displayed, so their job becomes more fun. So not only do we try to make the job for our employees fun, but we try to make the job for the people in the military that are looking at screens, trying to decide, is this a threat? Is this a problem? Or is this a flock of birds?
Right. Or is it going to cause an enormous amount of problems in a few hours that we haven't even considered yet? Yeah.
That's right. And these threats, I don't want to panic anybody, but to me, these threats are greater than ever before. And data is changing faster than ever before. And what's happening in space is so cool, but there's more data moving around about everything, than, we've ever seen. So it's important to get this right. And there is clearly a technology race between us and China. A year ago, I would have said between us and China and Russia. And now I would just say it's between us and China, because I think Russia has a whole other set of problems. But we have to get this right. And we haven't focused enough on our home game and understanding everything's happening in America, over America, protecting our assets here. So there's a lot of fun things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm getting deep into what we do, but so we have 200 people that do things like that for the Army, for the Air Force, for space, for our assets that are in South America or in Middle East. It's a great thing to be focused on.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's also probably interesting because it really is still an emerging field, data analytics. I mean, in the sense that it's talked about a lot, but it doesn't feel like a lot of people really understand the power of data. And so there's probably an element of also just educating people around like what they could do if they had the triangulation of data.
That's right.
So yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah, and some of it's public data. It's just and you have a person sitting there looking at let me look. I got to check these 7 separate screens to decide how I put this together and then make that decision. And they have 20 seconds. Right. Which is impossible.
Right, exactly.
So we're like, okay, let's take this together. What really matters, put it on one screen and let you see these, what we call baseball cards, to show you your accuracy, your probability, and your outcome based on if you do this thing.
Right. That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah. I love your passion for it. So it's interesting because you didn't found this business. You just took over as the CEO recently, right? Correct.
Yeah. And my whole experience has been, so I have been lucky. I have built multiple companies. I've had amazing teams that have worked with me, and it's been great. And I joined Hypergiant a year ago because this company is really starting to take off. And so they wanted to get someone in here who has been a part of large SaaS software companies in the past. And so Ben Lamb, who was the founder, found me. Well, I've known Ben for years, but I've never worked with him. He found me and said, look, you need to come do this because we're going to change the world. And I even like our whole, the mission statement of, which is just tomorrowing today.
Yeah. I
so
love
it's just, we just want that creativity to get in people's minds.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about your leadership journey. I mean, I personally have found some of my biggest challenges when I've inherited a team, which is now what you have. So tell me about some of those struggles. Like, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I think that, I think there's different phases in companies. So when you launch a company, you got to get to that first $1 million because you're not a real company until you get to that first $1 million. So, okay, get to that first $1 million of revenue where people are truly paying you for something to prove you actually have something. And then to me, it's like $10 million. Okay, but because now it's $10 million, you need a full team. You need HR and finance and, $1 million, you can do that with a few people. $10 million, it's a real company. So 10 to 20, you kind of have something. But to get to 200 million, it requires something different. And to me, to get from 20 to 200, it requires three things: focus, focus, and focus. So the one thing that I have done really at Hypergiant is said, our mission is space defense and critical infrastructure. And the reason, that's all really one thing, but sometimes defense is, DoD is considered Army or Air Force, but it's serving that same mission. It is serving people who are putting their lives on the line for everything we enjoy, and we want to make sure they have the best technology. Our government in the last few years has moved away from a build mentality to a buy mentality. So they want to turn to the best software companies in the world to help them solve their mission. And it's like, oh, this is great. It's just wonderful. So it's a wonderful time to be focused on space and defense. And critical infrastructure is also the same thing. So it's all part of our national security.
Sure.
So our overarching thing is, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do anything else. Everybody focus. Everybody get lined up behind that mission.
Okay. Well, that's great. So then so this comes back around then to the values discussion. I have found that what has worked really well is gotten really clear on what the vision is, this sort of long range, like impossible, hairy, audacious goal. Yeah. For us, it's ending suffering in the workplace.
Which I love that.
It will probably never actually officially happen, but we are going to do everything we can along the way, right? Yours is tomorrowing today. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I have to actually think about that because it's a bit of a twist in my mind. It's never going to officially happen, but man, does it inspire people, right? I mean, people will see our mission statement, like you just said, and be like, yeah, I'm all in with you. I mean, the right people. Others will kind of roll their eyes and be like, whatever, but I don't want to work with those people either. But then the values piece has been interesting because I created those values for my employees and my staff, not necessarily to communicate to customers. I mean, matter of fact, one of our values is no jerks.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of customers would actually like to see that because they might actually self-identify. And so, right. I think you and I are similarly yoked in that, right? You mentioned a little saltier topic than that when we did our pre-interview, but tell me a little bit more about that. Like what happens for you? What made that happen for you?
Yeah. I believe at the foundation of my soul, I believe you either are humble or you'll become humble. It's up to you, but you either are humble or you'll become humble. So if you use that as the backdrop, then you say to your no jerks need apply. It's the same thing. And we say, as you said, a little saltier, but it's the same thing. And I just don't have time or energy, and I don't want any people in my company to have to deal with people whose ego and arrogance is just beyond what they should be. And so they need not apply. And you don't need it. We have insanely smart people, and we deal with a lot of PhDs, and we deal with a lot of data scientists. But there's parts of the business they don't know either. And people just need to respect what they know and what they don't know. And so those are the kind of people we want in our company.
Yeah. So have you ever had that, where you've had a misalignment, especially on your leadership team?
Absolutely.
What'd you do?
You try to bring them to balance. I don't want to say most of the time it doesn't work, but I would have to say, if I had to say, are you more successful converting people over or not? I have to say no. I have to say some people are just not suited to work on a team. And they, sometimes you'll have a finance person who has a certain, this is the way it is, and this is the law. It's like, okay. So you just need to try to help them come to middle ground, but most of the time you have to let them find an opportunity to be successful somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because this is not the place.
Right. Yeah, I think
and I said that carefully, it's like, give them an opportunity to be successful somewhere else, because there are companies that want to operate like that.
Absolutely.
So go to it.
Right.
You could be amazing somewhere, but it's just not here.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that. I have now met thousands of people in this journey, and I have never met somebody that I didn't believe in once I got to know them. Everybody has a gift to give this world, and I'm a super judgmental person. I judge everybody I meet. It's just first thought, not last thought, right?
Yeah.
So I don't say that lightly, that everybody has a gift to give. I truly believe it. And, but not for my company necessarily. Right. And that's where I've gotten, every time we've lost someone, we really revisit the values and say, okay, what was missing? How could we have figured this out in an interview? What would we've done differently in the onboarding period? And we try to self-correct on that, but sometimes you just you can't tell everything in an interview. But what do you think of that when I say that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And, there are just, different types of people are needed in companies at different parts of their journey. And many times it's just, everybody does have a good heart. I do believe behind every person, inside their soul, they're a good person, but they have to be in the right culture that is a match for them. And that may not be where they are. And it is unfortunate, because I was listening to some of the stuff that you've said, and it is sad that so many people just put up with it and just muscle through. It's like, oh my God, find your happiness, find your place that's the right place for you, because it's amazing when you just can't get enough of your job, when your job is your mission, and your mission is your passion, and your passion is your love, and it's your hobby. It's just really cool.
Totally. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I was talking with some friends of mine earlier today, some fellow CEOs, and we were talking about this concept of a 32-hour work week, which is, starting to really be discussed a little bit more in circles. And I think to myself, well, I probably am in front of my computer maybe 20, 25 hours a week, but I spend 80 hours a week just thinking about it because I love it, right? It's all the media I consume. It's all the stuff I read. I just can't get enough of it because I love it so much. But it doesn't, it's kind of a cliche, but when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. And so yeah, it's interesting. I do want that for everybody. So yeah. Well, so when you think about your leadership journey, then, what are some of your biggest struggles? Do you mind opening up and sharing something like that with me?
Yeah. So I think when I got here, and I'll focus on Hypergiant really. Hypergiant was doing about 7 things that were all really cool. And it was hard for me to say, we're not doing that now, because these are all cool things. As an example, we have a bioreactor that is in the Smithsonian because, that's just it's a really cool thing to think that we can use AI in a bioreactor to help, create more oxygen and better air for the earth. But it's like, Okay, which is a wonderful cause. But then we also have this cause to help the Army and help the military and do these. And it's like, okay, these are just they're different missions. And so the first thing I had to do is I had to get smart enough to not, fly the plane into the mountain, right? It's like, look, let's make sure I don't pick the wrong mission. So as I got smarter, talked to a lot of people, I get smarter by just hanging out and listening, and there's one thing for every leader to do more of, and it's just listen to your people. The answers are right in front of you.
Yeah.
Whether you're listening to customers and their needs or your employees and their needs, just listen. But the first thing I had to get, once we solved and decided on our mission together as a team, then it's like, okay, now we're going to have the discipline. If it's off mission, we're not doing it. We're not having a meeting on it. We're not talking about it. It's off. It's over. It's done. We're putting it aside. And those would keep coming back. And it's like, you just had to keep, you had to just keep
focus.
Yes. So, and it was hard because I had to take people that are insanely creative and say, I want you to be creative here. Because if we all are creative here and we're all rowing the exact same direction, we're going to have twice the speed and twice the accuracy. And I would say it took 6 months to get everybody aligned to that mission. And so I had to just reward, when I saw the right behavior, I had to reward it. And I had to it's like when someone would do something, it's like, rather than just, bop them on the head, you're like, okay, but do you think we should be doing this now? Is this aligned to our mission? No, not really. Okay. Then, oh yeah, I get it. Yes. Okay. I'm done. And I'm deleting it. So It's just patience, so I think it's listening and then a little bit of patience of just helping people, because they've been very successful, but what got you to 20 million won't get you to 200 million. Right. It just won't. Mm-hmm. And people have to understand that. And they're ready for it. And the team was ready. So the lucky thing for me is my team wanted it. So, the first thing is, why are you here? What do you want to achieve? And it's like, at the end of the day, everybody in my company we want to impact the health and the safety and the welfare of mankind by having a national security software company that can really do this. They're like, okay, then let's go. Mm-hmm. Then that's our mission.
Yeah. So what about with your team? Like, is there anything that wakes you up at night that makes you worry about your team, your people? You can't hit this mission without them.
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing for me that is so hard, because this is all new, is this remote work. How much stress can people handle? How much can they deal with all of this? You're working 24/7. You're always on. And now you don't have the water cooler talks. And so the things that we're dealing with in the last 2 years are just new. And in some ways they're great because people are getting more time at home, but they're also still doing as much work, because I don't think we've lost any productivity. But I think there's a lot more strain on people, because I do think there is a shift that takes place in your drive. Mm-hmm. You do turn this off, you turn this on.
Like putting on pajamas.
Yeah. Especially for those that, luckily my kids are grown and our house is quiet and it's easy. But for many people, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I worry about, is like, how hard do we push, how mentally, I just want people to be healthy. If people are healthy and they're happy, they will do amazing things.
Right. Well, and that kind of ties into your value of work hard, but have fun, in encouraging that second half of that value. Because one of the things that I've seen some companies do is actually like force people to take vacation. We've seen a trend where there is no more vacation accrual. You don't accrue it, you take it. And we want you to take it. And some things like that, because of this, really big trend in burnout, because it is easy to just work all the time. I've had to really, for me personally, like really bound my schedule with, if you look at my schedule, you'll see that there are times when it's Kendra is unavailable.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm going to go for a workout, or I've got to go play basketball with my 8-year-old, or who knows what I'm doing, but it's my break. And if I don't take that, then I would just work all the time.
Right.
So I've really, and I'm with my team. That's what we do too. Like we live and die by our calendars and really schedule in. Here's the breaks that we're taking, and there's no judgment around any of those breaks. And we still have an enormous amount of productivity with that. But
yeah, I agree. We do the same thing. So we give people money for anything they want to do for health. Anything. I don't care. You can buy a meditation app. You can join a gym. You can buy tennis shoes. You can buy a Peloton. We won't pay for the whole Peloton, but we'll pay for a good chunk of it. So we give them money for whatever they want to do to improve themselves. And I don't care if that is, donating your time, whatever it is. It just doesn't matter. But it can just away from work. So we give them money to that, and then I don't want to say we force time off, but we strongly encourage time away all the time.
Yeah.
So we haven't gone to a use it or lose it mentality. We let people roll, because I don't know, sometimes right there at the end of the year, people start doing funny things. Oh, I got to use it. And it's like we trust and just say, look, self-governed, but
right.
Your manager's job is to, if I'm seeing things that you're not self-governing because you're on Slack every night at 11 and you're on Slack at 5 in the morning, something's going to break here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really is the duty of the manager to help monitor some of that. So tell me a little bit about your management team. I mean, that's where we see culture start to implode, is in that middle level. Once you're leading leaders, that's when culture can really be negatively impacted. And that's kind of where we specialize, is helping scale culture. So what do you do for your managers to make sure that they're carrying the values through?
Yeah. So the first thing that I've done, I have had a quarterly retreat every quarter with my exec. So as the new CEO in year one, I think year one is all about alignment. And I hate to take people away from work. And some people just hate the idea of a retreat because it's this touchy-feely, blah, blah, blah stuff. But it's like, we need time in a room to collaborate and to share what we're excited about, what we're scared about, what our risks are, how could we fail, what are we not thinking about, who's better than we are, so you just need time to do that. So every quarter, I have brought my leadership team together for a 2-day getaway, unplug, computers off. Usually I'm at some place that doesn't even have good Wi-Fi, so that it's like they can't work. And you just make sure that we are aligned, because if you aren't aligned at the top, it's impossible to be aligned the next level down.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe in just making a lot of time for that first tier. And now we're starting to work that next tier. And I call it the ELT, Executive Leadership Team, and the SLT, which is my directs, and just making sure that we're thinking about our regular communications, what we're doing. But then I also do things like I meet with every employee when we hire new employees, and then I meet with every employee again at 90 days. So
that's great.
Because when you meet new hires, so like this new hire thing, meet the CEO, what I found is, while it's good and people like it because most CEOs don't do it, people are so new, and of course they're happy. They don't even know what to ask. They're careful and they're polite. So then I come back and I do it again at 90 days.
Yeah,
and it's interesting to see the day one versus 90 days, just in their maturity and also in their openness, but we don't have because we're a small company, right? So we're, like I said, we're 200 people, and most of those are hands-on keyboard data scientists, engineers, software engineers. So, we don't have a lot of layers of management, but it's basically me, my directs, and then one more layer of management, and that's it.
That's Yeah, that's a good flat organization. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, we definitely see this epidemic of people who've done really well in their job get promoted into a management role and then not be trained to be a good manager. And then that's when things can really start to fall apart. And so that's definitely been one of the kind of secret sauces that we've seen really work with companies.
Yeah. And I think that especially in our sector, because if you're not careful, you may promote your best software engineer to be a manager of engineers. Well, being the best software engineer and being the best manager of engineers is a totally different skill.
Totally. Yeah.
And so it's like, so we do spend some quality time with the people earning trust. And so once you've earned trust, then people really, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to be the CEO, but they think they should say they want to be the CEO because that's what everybody says. It's like, you don't really want to be a CEO. I mean, let me explain what this job is,
right,
and then see if you really do want to be a CEO.
Let me tell you about raising capital.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you about all this administrative stuff you have to do in this job. But I think a lot of that gets to trust and communication. And if people trust you, they'll share with you, and they'll share what they're doing and what they're not doing, and what they love and what they don't love. So I think it's building a team of trust.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So what would you say then to your younger leader? If you hear those questions a lot, like, go back to the day when you were younger, what would you say? But what would you tell yourself as a younger leader? Like, what would you do differently with some of those early employees that you were leading?
Yeah, I think the younger me, I think ego was too high, and I believed in just work harder. I grew up with a very great family work ethic kind of mindset. And it's like, you just work harder. You're such a good Midwesterner in that way.
Exactly.
That's the way we did it. You just worked harder. And where I am now is, look, I'm much more into the meditation and into the listening, into the stay in your Zen. And it's like, wait, listen to what's happening in the world, what's happening around us, what's happening with that person. Where are they? And if you really listen when you're talking with somebody, they give you amazing nuggets of what they're really concerned with. So if you're an amazing listener, you lead very different. And leaders don't listen. I mean, if I had to, especially young listeners, they just don't listen unless they are humble. But right. Most young people aren't humble because they have to be aggressive and confident and all these things to prove that they're worthy. And we, as people who fund companies, we reward that. So we're creating this society, because how many humble, good listening people speaking to a venture capitalist is going to get funded.
Right. For sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That isn't a personality that is attractive to that group, which is probably partially why you see less funding to women organizations and minority organizations too, because there is a built-in humility in a way.
Yeah.
And so, that's interesting. That's a great point.
Which I also think is interesting, what you just said about the women and the minorities. The other thing is, the diversity of the team. I had no appreciation for diversity. And I don't just mean in race, but I mean in every kind of diversity. And that I don't believe I was biased intentionally, but you definitely just, you wrestled, I wrestled, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, I like that guy.
Like attracts like. It's a natural human characteristic. Yeah.
And it's such a poor team from a diversity of thinking, and it will totally mess up the company. Mm-hmm. Now, you may be okay because you may get lucky and you're on the right path. Generally, I say that's not true. There's no company that doesn't pivot or change or adjust. And the more diversity of thinking you have around you, the
Mm-hmm.
as long as everybody can listen to each other, the better chance you have of finding the right path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I went. Well, I have a long story for a desire to have a more diverse team. I'm married to a Mexican. I have, I'm in the HR field. I'm a leader. Like, there's a lot of things that say, like, I need to do more for diversity. And I looked at my team and I'm like, oh, we're dominated by white women. Okay, let's see here. So, from one angle, people would say, oh, that's a really diverse team because you look at all the women. But it's like, but it's actually not diverse in definition.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I really, really committed to it. And now there's representation from every single person on my team. And it is so cool. Yeah. But it's representation like this: age. We've got young and we've got every generation covered. We have more males on the team. We also have different races, different religions, different religious backgrounds, class backgrounds. We have a variety of sexual orientations. Like, that's the diversity, but it's a total diversity, not just race and not just gender, which is a great place to start for sure. But we call it the 1,000 small steps to having a diverse organization, because it's literally, I think it's actually like at 194 steps of things that we've captured over the years of things you need to do. And it's just one small step at a time. So to get there, but I appreciate that you have that is that an initiative that you actually have?
It is an initiative that we have. And I manage it carefully, because the last thing a person of diversity, as you're working to become more diverse, the last thing a person wants to feel that you hire is because you hired me because I'm diverse.
Yes, exactly.
It's
deflating.
Yeah. So it's part of my objective. It's part of my job to create that environment. But, I'm also cautious, like, well, we haven't hit our quota. We need to hire one more woman. It's like, okay, look, that is the wrong way to run this thing. And I've learned that literally over the last 10 years of the value of that. So to me, I'm just, it's just interesting to interview people that come from a different perspective than you do, because they bring it just even the way they process decisions. It's just different. It's like, And some people are quiet and they bring it to the table later. And it's like, no, I want to think about it for 2 days and then bring my answer, because that's what they are. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's great. And it's good to have different people at the table like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
I still have work to do. I don't know if you're ever done. I mean, right, you're always working on this to make this better. But,
well, it's just like any ecosystem. You're always, there's a life cycle to any ecosystem, including death, decay, and rebirth, which I see as also part of running a business is really a more regenerative model. And with a truly regenerative model, you do have a lot of diversity that comes in and sometimes surprises you, right? And sometimes culls.
Absolutely.
So I oftentimes look to nature and to physics to find my answers. And I think watching an ecosystem thrive is such a great analogy to business.
I totally agree with that. And I even look at the evolution of, like, our country. If you look at our country and you look at us as a superpower and the way we have acted in the past and the way we have to act now, and becoming, a much stronger democracy with all of these other countries, and the collaboration and what we're doing, it's just, so I am super excited, because I have an opportunity to take everything I've done in enterprise for the last 25 years and apply that all to government and best practices here. And they are listening to how can we, because if you're in the Army, you're trying to recruit new people to be in the Army. Well, if you're trying to recruit somebody in the Army that's going to be working on a computer or running drones and managing drones or managing surveillance and doing these things, and it doesn't look very gamified, well, good luck recruiting the young people, So it's just I feel blessed, and I feel very lucky to be doing what we're doing, because I have such an advantage, because it's AI, it's making our country safer. It's helping our Army and the Air Force and doing things with drones and with just some really, really cool things, and satellites all over the place, and helping people that are working for us every day to help make them better. It's just so it helps me in recruiting and retention. You get to work with these generals and these, anyway, it's a wonderful time to be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I could definitely chat with you all day about it. I've absolutely look at this. I mean, with just flow by 45 minutes. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, this was fantastic, Mike. Well, I just can't thank you enough for sharing some of your insight to our listeners and to me. I learned some things myself today, so I'm super grateful for it. And just best of luck to you and to Hypergiant as you guys go forward. So, I mean, I can't wait to see what you do. And thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you very much. It's great being with you. I am a super fan of your mission and what you're trying to do. And at the end of the day, we got to take care of people. Our most critical asset in this entire planet, besides this planet, is the people on the planet.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is trying to make that better every day too. So that's awesome. So good for you. And thank you. Thanks for the time.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. All right. Well, to everyone tuning in, I'm Kendra Prospero, and I look forward to chatting with you again next time. And thank you again, Mike Betzer, for joining us on How I Turned the Corner. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining this exciting episode. We hope this discussion brings you closer to a better, healthier, and more rewarding workplace everyone deserves to be a part of. If you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the podcast at turningthecornerllc.com/podcast. Don't forget to share this with your friends in the corporate world. And together, let's make this space a hub of growth and job satisfaction. If everyone loves where they are, they can always give their best without regrets. That's all for now. See you on the next one.